Because it's so funny. I jumped out of the boat. I had enough faith to jump out of the boat, leave the corporate job or, higher education. But I didn't have enough faith to reach out. Like I was like super scared. I wasn't reaching out to anybody. I was like studying about to, but I was like so scared. She reached out to me, got on the phone, said, "How much you charge?" $500. Sold.
Damn it.
Dang it. Dang it.
Oh, man, you got to love when that.
This is the Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast, a podcast about Middle Tennessee business owners and professionals. Mostly.
I got to ask, man, how are humans better at creation or destruction in your mind, in your opinion?
Creation.
Creation?
Duh.
I love the optimism.
Destruction is creation. It's just creating destruction.
Very interesting way to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
So how have you been since the last I saw you?
Good. Yeah. Crushing, man. I feel like I'm on flying high.
Good.
Yeah.
It's a good time to get to you.
It is, man. It is a really good time, actually. It's better when I'm flying low.
It sometimes happens. I've had one of those days today where it's like everything comes, it's like Murphy's Law day, one of those types of days.
Yeah.
So yes, you're listening to the Mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast. Check us out at mmtbp.com. That is the website. You got a bunch of links there, including one that you can apply to be on the show. Check that all out there at that website. And the gentleman you're hearing today is Mr. Darryll Stinson. Welcome, sir. I met you, I want to say a couple of years ago with Mr. Jim Morris speaking at one of his events. Mm-hmm. And all of your handles are Stinson Speaks.
Yes.
And I'm fascinated because, as I was telling you when you came in here, there's a lot of people speaking these days. It's a saturated market. Tony Robbins kind of... Well, of course, he was standing on the shoulders of giants as well. But, in the 80s, he really kind of carved out a niche with the motivational speaking kind of thing. And it's now permeated into all sorts of different niches. A lot of people out there that are kind of just doing it to speak. But a lot of people that have a tremendous motivation and reason that is palpable in their speaking. And I've seen that come from you. So for what it's worth, hopefully you appreciate that.
I do. Deeply. Thank you.
Because you started out in life, oddly enough, being a lot of bullying in your childhood, right? Because you're 6'5". I can't imagine that was always the case.
I was always tall.
Yeah.
And that's why they always would try or... Yeah. I always got away. I was pretty fast too. So I always say as much as I was bullied, I got away.
Yeah.
But yeah, they would always try to jump me.
But I mean, how old were you at the time when that would happen?
I was definitely 9, 10, 11, 12, and all in those ages.
And it's tough to have that disposition of, well, I'll just stand my ground. It's depends on your upbringing, your community.
I didn't have that in me. I didn't get that until I got it a little bit in high school. Got in a couple fights,
Yeah. People just were naturally gravitated to just pick a fight with you.
It was like we can take the big guy down, it's a good day for us. It's hilarious.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Was there a kind of an element that if you did put up a fight that, hey, we'll be friends after? Was there any of that?
No.
That's how my dad grew up.
I mean, if I was slap boxing my cousins or something, we played around. But no, if they're actually going to jump you, they're going to rob you, steal you, and kick you in the mouth.
Right.
Type of thing.
My father grew up that way. He had to fight for his friendships.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, it was probably the late 40s, early 50s in Yonkers, New York.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And he's like, yeah, I had to fight it. Once you fought him, we were good.
We didn't have to fight for him. We had to fake for him.
Really?
Yeah. Fake it till you make it. You know what I mean? Just act like you're harder than what you are. Act like you're tougher than what you are. Act like you're, got more girlfriends than you got. Act like your
bark's worse than your bite.
Exactly.
When did you decide to say enough? And just
I didn't decide. Life decided for me.
Really?
I had to hit rock bottom before I looked up.
Really?
Yeah.
Tell me about that a little bit. How'd you get there? And what age?
I don't know what age I was. It was whatever. I was a junior in college.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
you kind of endured this all throughout high school, or did it kind of taper down? People matured a little bit more?
No. I was just being a different variety. I was running the streets and selling drugs and,
right.
Being Mr. Kingpin.
Yeah, because you mentioned that in your bio. I was reading that today, that you went from, dare I say, the whitest black man that people, I guess, would accuse you of. But then you decided to just, well, if I can't beat him, join him kind of mentality in a way. Is that what happened?
Totally, yeah. Because
Really?
I was teased for being a black kid that talked and acted white when I was younger, because I was super nerdy, perfect attendance, and, was very creative. And so I was teased for that. And, that insecurity made me feel like, oh, well, something about my authentic self is not okay, is not acceptable, is not respected. So, I know it is a version of me that's not real me. Heart, toughness,
Is that something you can turn on and off now?
Well, it's different. Then it was so much more street cred. It was like you'd fight and be willing to shoot somebody and like you're a bad guy. Now, like it's like mental resilience, high performance.
Well, now
toughness.
it is, yeah.
I mean, that part's authentic to
Yeah.
me. I played Division I football. So,
And that was in college?
college. Yeah. So that's when I found like, some real authentic aggression that wasn't like with this.
Well, yeah, you had a healthy channel to express it.
Totally.
Right?
Totally.
Did you feel like you had identity kind of going into, because I'm a big identity guy, especially in those formative years, identifying that in a person for myself, starting with my brother. My brother was always into music, played the piano as longer than I can remember. And he always had that identity, and I was always envious of it growing up because I didn't start playing the drums, which is a deep-rooted identity for me, until I was about 11. But I knew I wanted to play the drums at like 6 and 7 years old. I just never got the opportunity till I was 11. And that identity kind of fueled a purpose in a way. This is who I am. I'm confident in this. Confidence is the memory of success. I'm successful when I play the drums. What was that identity for you? I mean, I would imagine your grades and stuff like that, how you conducted yourself. Was it external? Was it from a family kind of factor that poured into you?
Well, at some point it just became all athletics.
Yeah.
I became, highly sought after recruited athlete and supposed to be one of the next best athletes to come out of the state of Michigan in both football and basketball.
Yeah.
And, got hurt my true freshman year. And that's when I, started to be like, oh man, I don't know who I am outside of this sport. My identity's been wrapped around it. And, if I don't have it, then I don't have me. And that's one of the reasons why even after back surgery, I still came back to play, because I just couldn't figure out who I was outside of having that, identity as being, an athlete.
What was your identity throughout, like, going from elementary, middle, into high school?
Street thug athlete.
Just athlete was also
athlete and thug. Yeah.
When did the athlete happen?
Probably like 7th grade. I got my athleticism caught up with my height. I was always playing and stuff, and there was always an eye on me because my dad was really good too. I was supposed to be an NFL athlete too. Blew out his knee playing basketball. Would have been like one of the best free safeties of all time. So he's really well known for that. But one of those big what ifs, right? So yeah, 7th grade, I started, my athleticism started catching up with my height. Started playing AAU. Michael Jordan's son, Brandon Jennings, a bunch of NBA players that you probably know today. Yeah. And so, it was on the radar. And then that's when it was like, oh, okay. You don't care if I talk white or talk black. All you care about is the fact that, I'm playing against these NBA or future NBA, future NFL players. Okay, cool. Oh, you'll talk to me now. Oh, all of a sudden, like I'm wanted, I'm desired. Okay. I'll just get better at sports because then you'll like me more. Yeah, like that.
Because I would imagine that, there was you must have been popular in high school. You're a good looking guy. You're strapping, Totally.
Yeah. Everybody liked me. Yeah.
Did you ever, I had somebody like, I used to get bullied a little bit in middle school. And I had this one guy who was always like similar in stature, always had like a posture or a perception of kind of being street hard, that kind of thing. And he actually stood up for me when I was being bullied in middle school. And I always appreciated it. Were you that kind of a person? Would you actually, if you saw somebody being bullied, would you step in? I could see you doing that.
I am now. Then I'd probably act like I didn't see it. Really? I was scared. I was terrified.
Do you remember the day that you decided to stop and just like, I'm making that decision?
I remember the exact moment that I stopped being terrified.
Really?
Well, that's not true. There was a period. Well, no, there's two periods. Like there was a period where, I don't know, probably my first fight, I can't even remember when it was, but probably when I actually had to throw my first punch, where obviously I had to like man up, quote unquote, and like get in the fight, or defend myself or whatever the situation was. But then there's another moment that was the first thing that came to mind when you asked me, when I was in college. You'll get a kick out of this story. So get this, I'm an offensive lineman, or excuse me, a defensive lineman.
Right.
They want to put 50 pounds on me because I can run like lightning and I'm talented.
Yeah.
There's Eric Fisher, who's an offensive lineman, went, number 1 2012, number 1 draft pick for 2012.
Mm-hmm.
There's a guy that's better than him, better than the number 1 draft pick, named Jake Olsen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Jake Olsen, twice as strong, twice as sturdy, way harder to go against. Okay. So I'm going against Jake Olsen. And because he's got these long arms that you can't get around and his freaking death grip that you can't undo, I'm like dancing around this guy. I'm like, can't catch me. I'm like 225, baby. I'm not 275 yet. I'm like,
right. You got the agility. He's got the mass.
I was on the pass rush package.
Yeah.
They were trying to help train me to defend the run because they were like, if he can do the pass and the run, it's game over.
Yeah.
So Butch Jones, you know who Butch is?
I do not. I know the name.
He coached at Tennessee for a while. He won a MAC championship at our school. He went down to Cincinnati, won a championship there, came over to Tennessee and got his butt kicked for a couple of years and went with Alabama. And I forget where he's at now.
How long ago was that?
Yeah, 2000. I was there from 2008, 2011. But
so he went to Alabama prior to Saban.
Oh, he was coaching offensive something with Saban.
Oh, was he?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So, anyways, here's the finish of the story. So, I'm dancing around this guy, and coach is trying to teach me a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
So one day I'm like, boop, danced around him, thought I breezed right past him, like, like just whiz. Next thing I know, I feel this 300-pound dude just boom, hit me in the back.
Mm-hmm.
Gets on top of me, starts wailing me, hitting me, punching me in the face, doing all this crazy stuff. In the film of this moment, it looks like he's destroying me. I got a helmet on. I'm blocking 95% of the punches, but it looked like I got my A kicked.
Yeah.
Okay. They watched that in film at practice in slow motion and taunted me and said, "Look at Stinson getting his A kicked. Look at him."
Mm-hmm.
That was the moment it switched for me. That was
your never again moment.
I got so pissed
Mm-hmm.
that I was like, the first chance I get, I'm jacking him straight up and I'm just giving him every punch I got.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got hurt.
Mm.
Back surgery. I'm still convinced that one of the main reasons, other than my identity crisis,
right,
is I just couldn't go out and not get him back.
Well, it was like God stopping you from your primal instinct, I guess.
Well, God was trying to get me on a different path in life, but I was committed to sports. So I came back and I played on opioids and I knocked them straight clean.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So that's the point where it switched to me. And now it's like there's a level of, no, you don't let life kick you around and not throw something back. And it was more of I'm going to defend and stand for my ground and myself than it was this like, oh, I'm tough and I'm just going to be a street tough guy. Like it was coming from a different place.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
It's funny because I've never really been in a fight,
It's probably a good thing, man.
I guess so, but it's like, if it had to fall on my doorstep or whatever, and I'm almost, because like there is an element of like pent up rage that builds up over the last 30 years for a myriad of reasons that you just kind of file back, and when those little things happen, you don't really pay much attention to them, but they build up because you start filing them away. And I'm like, if there's ever somebody that, if my day comes Either it's I'm going down or somebody's getting really hurt.
Right.
And I don't know. I don't know what my capabilities are really.
Yeah,
you know?
I get that.
I don't think do I want to find them out? Probably not, just
Probably not.
I don't want any drama, When did you start getting out of, you got out of athletics because of the injury and everything. Continue the story. How'd you get to where you are now?
Totally, man. So this whole time I'm playing sports, 2 years after this back injury, I'm doing so because I'm taking opioids. I'm getting epidural shots in my back. I'm burning my nerves. I'm doing anything I can to numb the pain physically so that I can play the game of football. And I'm starting, I'm able to make some impact on the field. Me hurt better than the next guy fully healthy. So they're keeping me in the game, even though it's clearly like this guy's got injuries.
Yeah. And you're not feeling them because you're like numb to them.
Numb to them.
Which makes it even worse because you're going to think you're invincible and injure yourself even further.
Well, I knew I wasn't invincible. I could feel the pain. I just tuned it out.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Was it diminished pain or was it full on pain?
It was very bad pain.
Really?
Very bad pain.
Wow.
Yeah. And so, so I was taking these opioids and they were thinning my blood because that's what it does when you take too many of them. They thin your blood. And so every time I would make contact on the field, my nose would start bleeding. So I was having nosebleeds every practice, every game. And coaches were like, yeah, something's going on.
Yeah.
So they kicked me off the team my junior year and I went through this depression. I went from 275 pounds to 219 pounds in 4 weeks.
Oh my gosh.
I no longer had this physical outlet of sports to take out this anger, this rage. So I imploded on myself and, became depressed, suicidal, tempted multiple times.
Really?
In various ways.
Can I ask you what stopped you? How many, do you remember how many attempts there were?
I wasn't counting.
No.
I never thought about that. There's just a lot of attempts, living lavishly, swallowing, whole bottles of pills.
Oh my gosh.
Mixing, certain drugs and driving, hoping that I would just pass out at the wheel, actually passing out at the wheel.
Right.
A lot of that stuff.
Because it's I remember talking with a friend of mine in a Bible study and we talked about, for some reason, we're talking about the various ways people decide to end it. And, I'm like, the whole just hanging out in the car and, closing the garage door and starting it up would probably be but that's not guaranteed. I said, but the people that hang themselves, my goodness, he's like, well, think about it. There's no going back. Once you do it, that's it. There's no one around to save you. You're done. I'm like, oh, that's not a good way to go. But I mean, a lot of what you were doing, it was this is what I want to do.
You're fighting for hope. You really don't want to do it. Nobody ever really wants to do it. There's always a flicker of light in there.
Right.
No matter how, there always is. And that's why a lot of times when people do it, they got to be in a rage, a trance, on drugs, because you really got to kind of be out of your mind and not thinking clearly to do it because it doesn't make sense to put a good light out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Even when even putting a gun in your mouth doesn't guarantee.
Oh, yeah.
It's people have survived that, and it's like, well, if you survive that, you're on this planet for a reason. You still got something to do. That's the way I kind of see it. I had, unfortunately, a neighbor of mine who, great guy, all of a sudden, just you find out and you're like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. You just have no idea what's going on in someone's mind, in their life and everything.
Yeah, that's why.
So with that being said, if somebody, I always say, if somebody pops into your head, check on them.
Always.
Does that ever happen to you? All of a sudden, out of nowhere, you get somebody that pops in your mind.
I always follow it. I always reach out.
Every
out.
Time. Text.
Every
something.
time. Because you never know.
Right.
You never know. And then just ask. Be curious.
Yep.
How you doing?
Yep.
No, how you really doing, man?
Yeah.
I say ask specific questions because one of the questions I get a lot is, well, your parents, how did they know? Your coaches, how did they ask? And I said, man, I just, gave them the surface level. How you doing? I'm good. How you doing? I'm good. I'm good. But I clearly wasn't good. I was going home at night thinking about ending my life. I was, increasingly using opioids. I was lying to the healthcare system and manipulating it so I could continue to get all this epidural shots in my back. So I wasn't okay and nobody asked me. But if you really, if we weren't so busy and we actually listened, we were like, hey, how you doing?
It's a salutation.
Hey, tell me how you feeling about, man, your injury? How you feeling?
I actually go deeper, and I guess it's in the inflection and quality of my voice, being a voiceover guy, is saying, no, how really are you? And I'm not just asking that because it's a salutation or a way to say what's up. I'm literally calling you because I feel like you need to talk about something. Are you okay? That's how I do it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And
but you would only be able to do that if you had that sense.
Yeah.
Or you could see those signs.
Right.
But when somebody doesn't emote enough to give you a sense, or show you enough in their life to show you a sign, you don't even know to ask. And that's what I was doing. And that's what a lot of people do. That's why a lot of superstars, it's like, whoa, I didn't even know. Why them? Mm-hmm. Well, because they're giving everybody a show, so therefore they can't see a sign. Mm-hmm. And because they're so suppressed emotionally that people can't get a sense.
I got a podcast recently that I produced about 3 episodes, and one of the cast members, like, you could tell in the waveforms when I'm editing the actual audio portion of it, like everybody's waveforms are really active except for his. Like he's just been holding back. And I'm like, well, I've noticed a trend here over 3 episodes. I'm like, I called him up. I actually texted him, say, I have this tendency of texting people, hey, you got a minute, ... And usually that's like the way of saying, oh crap, what does he want? It's a sense of urgency, so I have to get better at that. But he says, he calls me and he says, hey, what's up? And I'm like, hey, I'm just, I've been noticing a trend. Everything good? Just want to make sure you're good, and he really appreciated that. And he explained to me there was something going on that they're going to work out, but, very appreciative. Just the acknowledgement of letting somebody know that someone cares, even outside of your family group, because your family's supposed to care, but to hear from somebody who's just outside, who's relatively unbiased, what a difference maker.
Totally.
You know who does that really well is Amanda Banks. You know Amanda?
I know, man. I love me some Amanda.
She reaches out to me. I put up something today on Facebook about integrity. And she's like, hey, I saw your post. You all good? Literally like a half an hour ago.
Got too emotional in the integrity post. Huh?
So shout out Amanda Banks. Thank you very much.
There you go.
So you moved on. Identity in transition. Obviously, God kind of shut a door and you had to figure out what the next step was. What was it and how did you find it?
It was speaking, leadership, communication. I found it because I knew it the entire time. I knew it. I don't think there was ever a time, if I'm honest with you, where I didn't know this is what I was supposed to be doing with my life.
Really?
I could sense it from even my earliest memory. Yeah. I felt like I was here to be a leader in a big way. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of that drug use, a lot of that like hyper focus on sports was running away from that whisper, that calling.
Mm-hmm. Who did you want to talk to?
Well, it wasn't about talking as much as about leading. One of my mentors says the world has enough speakers. What it needs is more leaders who are willing to speak. Mm-hmm. And so for me, it's always been about leadership. Yeah. Yeah. It's always been about leadership more than just opening my mouth. It's more about where I'm leading people.
I call that planets versus moons.
Okay. Say more. I don't understand.
My business partner is a good example. I call him a reluctant social entrepreneur. He spoke at Amanda's TEDx last summer. Mm-hmm. Were you at that one?
Yeah. I've been at all of hers.
Did you speak at it?
No. I was, attendee, support.
You remember the guy with the crutches, the first guy?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
That's my business partner,
okay,
John.
Nice. Yeah.
So I've always been ever since I met him, I said, you're so reluctantly social. You're not like any of these other people. You have a lot of sound business ideas, strategies, a lot of loving cultural tenets, if you will. I've learned a ton of him off of him, and he's, 7, 8 years my junior. And I continuously learn a lot from very faithful driven guy. You've seen his speech, very articulate, very direct. And he actually spoke about being a culturally reluctant or socially reluctant entrepreneur, which is what I coined for him. And I said, dude, you're like a planet. You're like, there are people like Gary Vee who have created planetary communities. And then there are people who are like moons. They're up in the sky. They're pretty to look at from once in a while, but not much there. You know what I mean? Everything that matters is right down here on the planet because it's got gravity. It's got, stickiness to it. There's real stuff here. So I think that's kind of like, to your point earlier, the world needs more leaders who speak rather than just speakers. Mm-hmm. That's the way I can kind of break that concept down, I guess, the best way.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I call it planets and moons. Maybe that's my TED Talk.
I would not recommend it.
You don't like my planets and moons metaphor?
It's a good metaphor. I just won't recommend it as a TED Talk. Just got to be honest.
That's fine. That's fine.
At least you know I'm the friend who would tell you when your breath stinks.
It's not really, It's not really one of those things that's even, I mean, if I don't see that in myself. I'm more of an encourager with people, you know? I like doing this. I like being behind something. I'm a drummer by nature, and I just know that, you know.
This is still communication.
Yeah.
There's still refinement.
Every now and then I have some nuggets of wisdom that drop out of my mouth.
Good.
So every now and then.
Cool.
Not too often. I have a lot of good ideas. Trouble is most of them suck.
Well,
yeah,
it's good. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
You got to keep taking them.
Yeah.
So how did you, like other business experience and stuff like that? You can't really just jump into speaking, or did you? Something's got to pay the bills, right?
Yeah. So I got hired at the Central Michigan University, my alma mater, in the communications department as a coordinator of content solutions.
Oh, really?
My job was to coordinate our content and solutions, solve the problems that existed in the communication and coordination of all of our content.
Interesting.
So we have internal communication, both departmentally and university-wide. And then we had external communication where we're trying to recruit and retain students, or we're trying to communicate to constituents and partners and alumni in order to fund initiatives. And so my job was to go figure out where all of that was happening.
And then say it.
And then figure out how to streamline it all, make it efficient in a system, and then make it all like sound good and great. Right. No problem.
So did it involve a lot of social media at the time?
It was a lot of communication, meaning I had to communicate just so I could get what I need to fix our communication. So the hardest part of that job was convincing these deans of these institutions that they needed to send this entry-level employee all of their materials, their brochure, their email campaigns, their calling campaigns, their mailers that they were sending out, so that I could then tell them what to do differently.
Oh, really?
So that was the hard thing. It was like, hey, send me your stuff by this time. Yeah, right. Yeah, you'll get it when I'm talk to my third person who doesn't even know where it is. You know, like a little bit of like, how do I say this in a way that captures their attention, communicates to them what I need, and get them to send it to me in a timely fashion without like asking all the questions that they would normally ask.
It's like practicing what you're about to preach in a way.
Totally. So then exactly. So that was why I had to learn how to do that. And then I had to take their stuff and I had to re-edit it. Then I did some, feature stories, magazine stories. I would do some training with the talent on campus. At the same time, I was retaking the undergraduate public speaking course. I actually became a teacher assistant of that public speaking course as well. So I was teaching communication. I was running communications campaigns. We won some awards as a team for higher education marketing for both our brand campaign and then a newsletter that I was running. Right. I always say if you can make somebody listen to a newsletter, then you can do anything.
Oh my gosh.
So I took that success and I launched into the industry as a speaker, as a marketing consultant, taught a process, the 4 C's of marketing. And then
What were they?
Capture attention. Or first you have to capture attention. Then you have to connect with your audience. You have to communicate key points. You have to call to action. Right. And I would teach best practices and frameworks and principles on how to do all those things.
Did you read any like marketing books at all?
My degree was in integrated public relations. It was journalism, broadcasting, and PR all in one degree, and then a little bit of a business. And I started as a business major, so I basically had a business degree and an integrated public relations degree. Right. I was 1 or 2 courses away from having both 2 bachelors.
You still kind of like nurture your mind with marketing tenets, philosophies.
I feel like I have a gift to understand marketing because I had such a deep pain of not being seen. And so I had to figure out how to like project this version that everybody wanted is marketing. Yeah. Projecting a personality is marketing. It's figuring out my customer avatar, what they want, and then figuring out how to project a narrative that gets them.
And what year was this right around?
When I was being trained and groomed. This was my life fabric. This was
when you were working at the university.
Oh, this was 2012 through like 14, and then I left and went into the speaking industry from 14 till now. I've been speaking on the side a lot while doing pastoral work in churches. That was like a big 5-7 year sprint where I was like volunteer by day, or at some point I was a paid staff outreach pastor at a church, and then I spoke on the side. That's how I paid my bills and made some real money and, got my reps and things like that. So I was getting a lot of teaching and discipleship inside of our local church, and then also some invitations. And then I was doing a lot of marketing consulting and some athletic teams, speaking to them, motivational speaking stuff. And I just did that for 5-7 years until I did the TED Talk that, did 2.1 million views in a year and a half. And then that was like, request. Then it's like, let's do this. Left the pastoral thing, can't keep up with doing a pastor and managing all these speaking requests. And sort of just went on this college tour, went on this corporate tour, and launched some books in the process. And here we are, right?
You have, getting into that line of work, I guess around 2013 to 2015, I guess is when you started stepping into it, speaking. It was before the surge happened. So you had a pretty good, opportunity to kind of establish yourself. Honestly, that's when I found out, the whole business.
The speaking industry has always been riddled.
It feels like it's just been.
No way, bro.
Really?
It's always been oversaturated, right? But it's only oversaturated at the bottom. There's a lot of room at the top.
Yeah, like anything else. Right, you got to be, if you get better at something,
you got to be in your lane. You got to be in one-on-one lane. You got.
I just feel like everywhere you look, they want to be a guru and a speaker these days.
You say that about real estate.
That's very true. It's a commodity.
Doesn't mean that you shouldn't still do it.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not saying you shouldn't. I just think the people who do rise to the top, who have a modicum of success, have a definite intrinsic understanding, almost like an old soul, of themselves. And an authenticity that they put forward, that's true. It's like I was telling you about John. I said, look, you're going to get speaking opportunities at some point in your life, if not sooner. And I said, when that happens, I'd love to help you with it and manage it and take a piece, but and be your agent, so to speak. I said, but it's going to come by proxy of the stuff that falls out of your mouth, not because you want to be a speaker. And I think that's probably, what do you believe about what you do? What are the things you believe about life and living and stuff like that? How to conduct yourself? That kind of stuff, I think, probably from your TEDx talk, because TEDx really vets their people and makes sure that their product is upheld.
Used to, really. So it's a little sparse.
In the beginning, though, a TED was, the whole concept came out, 2010, 2011?
Yeah, it's been a minute, yeah.
Because I oddly enough, I always thought of TED as, you remember when United Airlines had a knockoff airline? They called it TED.
No, I don't know that. Yeah. I did not know that.
That was a thing.
You just dated yourself.
I totally did. I have no problem doing that. I'm a little bit older than you, so
that's okay.
It's
I'm an old soul. My soul's probably older.
You are.
Yeah,
I agree that you are.
Yeah.
So when that happened, I for some reason correlated that with the TED Talks, and I had a friend of mine that was really into them. I didn't get much into them at all. I was coming out of radio. I went into the car business at the time. And I went into something else. 2015, I got exposed to Gary Vee. Dude, instantaneously, as soon as I saw it. Because I was at a Facebook thing up in Nashville where they were going around and promoting the Facebook business at the time. It was 2015. And they did a big event in Nashville. And so one of these people that were on a panel brought up Gary Vee's name by happenstance. And I remember writing it down. Once I got back to the office, I looked him up. Instantly hooked. I got this guy. I was like, oh, he's speaking my language. He was saying all the right things, and the way that he said them, he believed them. He wasn't just saying them to be shocking or anything, but he that kind of started my foray into the whole business influencer thing, because it wasn't really a thing yet. I'm not even sure if influencer as a term was conceived by that point. So it was still kind of new. So kudos to you kind of being on the front end of that, because it makes it a lot easier to really kind of permeate. But what were some of the things, especially when you come from the business side of speaking, understanding pricing, how to go about those types of things, getting exposure to have reels put together to encourage more business, so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
Was that an issue getting into speaking? Or did you know how to price immediately? Or
no, I didn't know how to price at all. In fact, my first engagement, the old adage was I didn't have to go free to fee. That's for sure.
Yeah.
I've done a ton of free stuff.
Yeah.
But my first engagement was paid. I was like sitting there, and somebody, my former intern, when I was at the university, I had interns all the time, and she went and got a job, and it actually was her aunt or something that was hosting a conference, a marketing conference at our local casino, and she was looking for somebody to talk about marketing. She's like, "You were always a good mentor to me. Do you talk about marketing?" And I was like,
"Sure,
yep." Little did you know, I was praying for this, because I was. It's so funny. I jumped out of the boat. I had enough faith to jump out of the boat, leave the corporate job or higher education, but I didn't have enough faith to reach out. Like, I was like super scared. I wasn't reaching out to anybody. I was like studying about to, but I was like so scared. She reached out to me, got on the phone, said, "How much you charge?" $500. Sold.
Damn it.
Dang it. Dang it.
Oh man, you gotta love when that happens.
I still to this, you know what? I actually know a guy that spoke at that conference. I should reach out to him and say, "Hey, you remember that? How much did they pay you?" Because he was pretty legit back then. He still is today.
Right.
And I know they paid him probably $10K, man. And I probably they probably like this. So anyways, I had 20 minutes and there was only 23 people.
Yeah.
Lit it up.
Yeah.
Lit it up. Gave it everything I had, man. And they all wanted more. Mm-hmm. And they had this 15-minute exit section with each of the people. Little did I know they all were heads of departments for organizations like Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Henry Ford Health Systems. So these weren't just one opportunity. These were people who had, 10, 1,200 different events that I could speak at.
Yeah.
And that was it. That's where I got all the rest of my business from starting out. It was just referral.
That's the best way.
So then they asked me, "Hey, do you do a workshop?" I was like, "Yes." "How much?" $3,000. So, dang it.
Damn it. The reason why we're actually having that response, for those of you listening, if you ever posture yourself when someone asks you how much, there are ways to go about it.
What's your budget, right?
Or just, hey, what were you looking to spend? And it's like you can kind of go back and forth and bat it around. And I always kind of go to I start ranging things.
Oh my God, I get it.
Tell me about your project.
I tell people, just pick the price, book your calendar until you can't handle anymore at that price point, and then raise it.
Does your garage door sound like this? If it does, it's screaming for help. Call Incredible Doors, 931-348-DOOR. We're making garage doors in Murray and Williamson counties work better and sound better. We just make them incredible again. Go to IncredibleDoors.com or call 931-348-DOOR. Follow us on Facebook for specials on maintenance visits, keypads, and other items. 931-348-DOOR. IncredibleDoors.com.
I found out recently, there's so many different product categories or service categories, if you will, in the entertainment space. Tribute bands, especially. Like I played with a tribute band here recently, and a lot of fun. Great.
What is a tribute band?
Tribute bands are a band that goes out and will either sound and or look like a band, a real band, like a Journey tribute band. So a band will play, and the lead singer will sound.
Look-alike.
Right.
Okay, gotcha.
Right. So they call them tribute bands, and some of these bands make bank.
I bet.
Yeah. So this particular band I played with, it's been like a bucket list item, oddly enough, to play with. It was a Huey Lewis and the News tribute band. Great band, great guys. But it's funny when you start investigating how they get paid and the things they need to do to just make some sort of revenue. It's like, well, there's got to be a better way, because a lot of them are doing it for exposure. I'm like, no, that doesn't pay the bills, man. Every business owner, I think at some point does things for free just to get some reps, video content, what have you, but at some point you got to say, no, we need to be paid for this. You know, and I kind of offered the opinion of going with an expense-based sales approach and helping the venue attract the best quality people in the audience, and then align the venue with the band that's a top-notch band and kind of thing. So, and even helping them promote it and stuff like that. And I said, there's ways of doing this and selling this.
Totally.
Is that the same in the speaking as well?
Yeah, same industry.
When did you feel like you kind of hit the stride?
The moment I decided to.
The moment you just decided that I've hit my stride.
Totally. I know that sounds oversimplified, but I say it that way because I know that some people, that's exactly why they're struggling. They just haven't decided to not. Like they literally are like, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe not. And they just haven't made up their mind. Like, I'm going to do this. I have a message to share. I'm here to change lives. I'm going to get my message out there to the world. They just haven't made a decision. And if they make that decision, they will find a way to make that a reality. So
is that how you approach your clients as well? Like, because some people made our budget is this, and we're a little bit far apart. Do you still negotiate, or you just say, no, this is my fee?
I'm not the best at that, man.
Right.
To be honest with you, because I believe speaking isn't just a skill or a business; it is a calling. So for me, it's hard to say no, and I feel like, oh man, there's ministry for me to do here. There's opportunity for me to make an impact. So I'm not the best at holding the line on my price when they can't afford it. I intentionally say yes to 12 engagements per year that are pro bono, is about once a month. Just so I can, everybody who's like sticker scared, I just, waive the price anyways, just to give back. And that helps me to stand in my fees more. Cause I'm like, well, I only do 12 pro bono gigs per year. I already said yes to those. Sorry. But every once in a while, somebody will get me,
Is it the same? It's not the same speech over and over. You're customizing and questions from the audience.
Speech, 20 to 30% customization.
Right.
Yeah.
The nature of the speech, for those of you who are new, is what?
Me personally, I have like 4 signature talks that I do.
Surrounding what topics?
High performing leadership. Mental health and communication. Like
mental health is a big one these days.
Yeah, which I always people say, well, that's 3 different messages. It is, but it's really under one thing of cultivating your greatness. My company's called Seeding Greatness, Seeding Greatness, and so it's all around like cultivating, releasing the greatness and that we have inside of us into the world. It's that unique thing that only we can offer. It's about giving that to the world. It's all I'm doing. And whether I'm talking about mental health, whether I'm talking about high performance, whether I'm talking about communication, is getting people to tap into that more and express that more often. Okay. Right. So it just so happens that I got a lot of things to say about communication because that's my, training, my professional expertise. I got a lot of things to say about high performance because I was a top 100 athlete and I'm a beast. And then I have a lot of things to say about mental health because I'm a suicide survivor. And I had to figure out how to do all of that while, coming from a new place of self-love and connection.
What has been the most profound thing someone said to you after one of your speeches?
Your business is a mirror. Oh, after one of my speeches. Okay. Yeah. I thought it was the best business advice I ever received. Okay.
How have you impacted somebody? And somebody says something to you and you just file it away.
I've had so many that I can't keep count, but the one I tell the most is one of the inaugural ones. I had been speaking for a long time. I was doing a bunch of stuff, but I was still like, my authentic voice still wasn't, I was still like trying to be other versions. I was trying to be a little bit of Bishop Jakes, a little bit of Eric Thomas.
Emulating.
A little, I was emulating, and I was also like hiding and avoiding being me because I didn't think me was good enough.
Oh my gosh, is that so true?
So I was doing that, and then at this one engagement, this girl came up to me. It was a youth conference. It's always hard for me not to get emotional. And she was the last one out of a line of 14 people. She's shaking. She's in tears. And she said, my parents dropped me off at an orphanage last year. And they never said why. She lifts up her wristband. You can see the cuts on her wrist. She said, I've been cutting myself to deal with the pain.
It's common.
She said, I haven't told anybody. But there was something about hearing you come out with your story that made me have enough courage to come up to you and come out about mine. Now, the reason why that moment was so impactful to me is because while I was shaking everybody's hand, and they were all, thank you, sir. It's so great. Thank you so much. You were the best speaker I ever heard. I was telling myself the whole time, I was holding back. I knew it. I didn't go. I was critiquing and I was feeling disappointed about my performance. And I realized that I was so focused on my image that I wasn't surrendered to my impact. And that moment made me surrender to my impact. I said, Darryll, you're focused on the wrong thing. If you could just focus on how do I share more vulnerably so that more people can hear what she got for me that day, why not do it? And that was a moment where I just started letting it rip.
Yeah.
Letting it flow, crying, snotty crying from stage. No more withholding from my vulnerability. Because what people don't understand is that vulnerability is not sharing your most darkest, deepest, hardest to talk about secret.
Oh, yeah.
That is not the definition of vulnerability. People think that it is. That's trauma dumping. The definition of vulnerability is to be open. Openness is the definition of vulnerability. Meaning I have to be willing to talk about my pain or to stand in my power. They both require the same openness within me. And people who struggle to talk about their trauma also struggle to stand in their truth.
Right.
They are stuck not because they lack the ability to articulate or the healing to share. They lack the conviction, the confidence to open, the willingness to open, the surrender to open and go, you know what? I'll say what I mean, stand in my truth because I'm open. You know what? I'll share my heart. Talk about my trauma because I'm surrendered to my openness, because I believe that when I'm open and I share willingly and freely to be of service to the audience, that is how I can be the best channel for the divine. Okay. Is this too much for your podcast?
Not at all.
Because I believe that the best speakers are the one who understand that they are a vessel. Okay. So it's not just my ability to articulate. It's my sensitivity to the nudges and the impulse that's coming through my spirit.
It's a humanness.
It's divinity channeled through humanness.
And that's one of the things that I can appreciate is the fact that, in so many ways these days with social media and everybody wanting to show the best version of themselves for whatever eventual end game gain.
Yes.
Whenever you have somebody that is it's an interesting take on vulnerability, because maybe that's what I do a lot is trauma dump, but I guess the vulnerability that I'm neglecting is the emotional impact and response to that dumping.
The openness, what I would say if I were coaching, the openness within yourself to feel.
Yeah.
Okay. We're not inauthentically being emotional. So we're not being emotional as a tactic to connect. Yeah. We're being emotional because when I open and I feel,
that's where the growth happens.
That's where the power surges through.
Yeah. There's so much of that is needed today, in my opinion.
Totally. It's not just needed; it's going to be required.
But those who are willing to authentically open themselves.
See that? It's already changing. See that? If I can just focus on opening, it makes it easier.
Yeah.
Because vulnerability got all this mental jargon where now it's like, well, I am being vulnerable, or that means I got to talk. But people, again, people just can't help when they hear the word vulnerable to think about their trauma. Like that's the only thing they think about. And what I'm trying to do is help people to start thinking about, hey, what's the thing that you would say behind closed doors? So one of the things I do is I'll make people I'll get them in this really powerful state. They'll be listening to like epic, instrumental, something that's just, like that you hear like Braveheart, that type of stuff. And I'm listening to that. Yeah. what's something that in your industry that you really wish you would say? What's something that's pissing you off? What's an injustice that's happening in your industry? Where are people ripping people off that you would stand and say, that's not how business should be done? No. Say that. That's your truth.
Yeah.
They have just as much trouble standing in that as they do talking about when, dad spanked them when they were little.
Right.
Just as much trouble, because it requires the same openness within themselves, the same willingness to feel and express from that place of openness and feeling.
Sometimes it's performative that I say. Yeah.
It's easier to perform.
Yeah.
Because if I perform and you don't like it, then you didn't like the performance. But if I express, then it's me you don't like, not my performance.
So if I were to attempt at being vulnerable right now, today's been a hell of a day. A lot of things happening, a lot of things at this age and at this station in life, the hits keep coming and you're kind of like, you start laughing because it's like, okay. Literally, that's how I'm responding to these things. I've had 3 distinct things that happened today where I'm just like, okay, we just got to deal with them. But my wife had said something about her back hurting. I said, yeah, mine does too. I'm tired of, I can't carry this weight anymore. It's just getting really heavy. And she's like, oh my gosh, and I said, look, that's the truth, man. I just feel like I'm like, but then I analyze it and go, did I just say that just to say it? Or do I really? I don't think I feel that way. That's the other aspect of it. Maybe I'm being vulnerable right now by having that doubt of what I really feel about it. You know what I mean? And being honest about it. And I think for most business owners out there, they need to hear a message of vulnerability from other business owners, other leaders in those spaces to say, look, man, we get it. We completely get it. It's not for, you're going to have weeks, probably months, seasons of life where you're wondering why you're doing what you're doing. And certainly my business partner, John, and we've looked at each other going, he said something last month. He says, we're going too fast to jump out of the car. I'm like, okay, that's a really interesting way to put it. What do you mean? He goes, we've got way too many irons in the fire to give this whole thing up. And I said,
I'm writing that down. I like
isn't that great? We're going way too, he got kind of acknowledged
we're going too fast. Say it again.
We're going way too fast to jump out of the car. Meaning that if we were going any slower, we may as well just pack it in and find something else to do. I would imagine that a lot of business owners out there in the light of the perfection bubble that social media can drain you with. You see a lot of, they're getting exposed on a channel called Baller Busters. I talk about them a lot. A lot of these people that put up these veneers of perfection, and you got to be this, and you got to be, if you're not doing this, you're not going to, if you don't have a 6-pack, you're not going to, all this stuff. And it's like, that's what works for you, man. That's great. And hopefully that, feeds your business and attracts the kind of people that resonate with that message. But I'm sorry, the last I checked, Warren Buffett didn't have a freaking 6-pack. Maybe he does. I mean, no one's ever really seen him without a shirt on, but whatever. I'm presuming he does. I'm pretty sure Tony Robbins doesn't either. He's in good shape. But, I'll never forget. You ever see that movie, the documentary, I'm Not Your Guru?
Tony Robbins.
Yep.
I wasn't really, had a very profound experience when I watched it too.
It's really that good.
Well, what it did for me is it gave me permission to do something that I was already wanting to do.
Yeah.
Which was like intervene in the middle of my speaking. When I saw him do interventions in the middle of talking, I was like,
the guy who wanted to kill himself.
Yeah, but multiple ways he would do that. He was always like stepping in the crowd and being like, "Let's just solve this right now." And I was like,
that pattern interrupt.
You can do that?
Yeah.
I've been wanting to do that for like 4 years. Oh my God, thank you. It's so much easier because what it does in the moment is it raises the level of belief in the room to be like, whoa, it is possible what this cuckoo person is saying. And then now when you have their belief, you have everything.
Oh, the things that, I mean, it gets so awkward at some point too. And he gets the guy on, he has him call his wife or his girlfriend.
Well, did you hear what I just said though?
Yeah.
When you get the belief, you get everything. I say that because so many people think it's about the specificity of what we're saying versus, I tell it this one, when you want it the most, people listen the closest. So one of the things that you should work on before you study how I use my voice, where do I stand, where should I use my hands, how many words should be on my PowerPoint slide. The first thing you should do is find your conviction. Because if you don't want the people who are listening to you to get what you're saying more than they want it, you're going to be missing some passion. Mm-hmm. And you're going to be missing some effectiveness because there's going to be a lack of conviction within yourself. And therefore, you're not bought into it, and neither are they.
Oh, the BS meters.
So conviction. How do I cultivate conviction in my community? How do I get conviction in what I'm saying so that it comes out with a level of urgency, passion, authority, seriousness? And like that is focus on that before we study where to stand, where to put it on the PowerPoint, what to wear.
Yeah. So many of the things you're saying remind me of voiçover students that I have.
Really?
Like, what kind of microphone should I get?
Oh, yeah.
I've always been told I have a good voice, to which I always respond that, I said, yeah, a lot of people are told that right in the beginning. I said, but, Gilbert Gottfried didn't have a good voice, and he still made it work. Yeah. I said, because he found a character, he found something innate within himself that was believable. I said, that's what actors do.
I would love to do more voiceover, by the way.
Yeah, it's a tough business, man. And you can commit to do it and completely pursue it. I could have done a better job at marketing myself, and I just never did for some reason. Basically, to your point earlier, not believing in yourself enough to, no, I'm good at this. I can make this work. I had a couple of instances of businesses back in the early 2000s. I called it C-note spots, and I didn't believe that my voice would be enough to sustain it. So I had to have a stable of 10 other people on my roster.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Wow.
But now I don't push it hard enough.
Yeah.
And I don't know why. It's probably because I'm over it. It's, I've been there, done that. I've done well over 50,000 pieces of content.
Cool. I want to do like 1,000 maybe.
And I'm talking because of radio, tags.
Gotcha.
Yeah. I mean, countless stuff every day, just reading it and ripping to read it. I never did anything like, what you see in the movies. That would be fun.
Yeah.
That would be fun.
Well, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. That would be a lot of fun doing, IVR.
I do commercials and stuff like that too. I do it. I just think it's cool to just listen to my voice because I had such an insecurity around it. I think it'd be a redeeming moment for me to be like, hey, got paid for a commercial for being a black kid that talks white. Yeah.
Did you?
I didn't, but maybe I will be in the future. Who knows?
So you married a beautiful woman, had a family and everything.
Yeah, 4 kids, baby.
When did that happen?
2014-ish.
Good for you. Congrats.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. It's been good, man.
Going on 11 years.
Yep, exactly.
You made it past the 7th inning stretch.
I did. It's funny. That was almost exactly our story. The first 7 years was complete a fight.
Yeah.
A fight. Just, so hard.
Were you still in your 20s when you got married?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Mid-20s, early 20s?
Early, yeah.
Yeah, that's, you haven't really found yourself yet in that age, in my opinion.
No.
Most people.
No. I mean, I had, no. I had found myself. I just didn't know myself yet. So I was still learning who I was. Yeah.
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 That happens. My wife and I got married mid-20s, moved to Vegas, 2,000 miles away from anything that we've ever known.
Yeah.
And we were the only ones that we could depend on.
Yeah.
And I think that strengthened us.
Right.
Now she's we started out being best friends and then it became romantic. But we always have that foundation to rely on, is that we're always each other's best friend.
Totally.
Because after everything goes south, it's like, that's what you got.
I get it.
And she's active in your business too. She's
doing her own thing. I mean, yeah, she definitely like co-leads our business with me. We run retreats together. We do events together. We speak every once in a while together. We run a podcast or a live stream show together.
What's it called?
Our entrepreneurial family.
Whereabouts is it?
Just on my YouTube channel. Yeah. Yeah. We just interview people live and just post it to YouTube. We didn't want the back end, operation side yet. Right. But I have a podcast, Seeding Greatness, that, does all the things too. She and she also went through our journey that we take our clients through, and she did a TED Talk. And then now she did like 4 speaking engagements, and she's got a couple coming up. So she's speaking on organizational trust and the importance of trust within teams and leaders and executives. And then also doing a lot of like motivation with Coming Alive is the name of her like motivational message, which is all around like how our health and our wellness affect our business growth.
So that's like in a business where you have multiple legs to a stool.
Yeah.
Speaking, workshops, private consultation, that kind of thing.
Yeah. So I got speaking, and then, that comes in forms. Yeah, we can do a workshop. And then I have consulting, and then it's like my coaching business is sort of what everything, all the retreats and the events are funneled, connected to the coaching side, which is around speaking, growing your business through getting on stages. There's different packages people do for that. But then, as a speaker, it's just usually me doing a speech, and I might do a workshop. Very rarely do I sign like a consulting deal where I'll do like a longer term thing, come in and do a series of trainings. Yeah. It's pretty much, keynotes and workshops and breakouts. But yeah, my consulting side of it, I run events and do all types of stuff in order to help people to unlock their full expression, and then design a ecosystem around that enables them to serve as many people as possible.
And you're an author.
Yes, sir.
Or dare I say a 2-time author, right?
2-time author, sir.
Hold up that book real quick.
Yeah. Got 2 books. This is my first one. Who Am I After Sports?
That is such that is a needed topic. My goodness.
It was, and it is, and it still is. That's why it sells every month, baby. Yeah.
You know anybody like here locally that you talk to on a regular basis, former athlete? Well, I guess you're always an athlete. Former pro sports career people. Chris Hope comes to mind.
No,
Chris.
I used to talk that, for years. I mean, I thought this was my entire brand. Second Chance Athletes was the name of my organization. I was teaching this 5-phase transition process. I thought this was everything to me. But then after my TED Talk came out and I started getting more requests, it was just like, obviously there was so much more to me than just this one message. And so I started to stop living in this box and started to break out of the box and, share all the messages that were on my heart to share, and not just feel like I needed to be tied down to a niche or a statement. And I get that's not the best advice for starting speakers, say pick a lane, stay in it. But to me, we live in an age where people are looking for authenticity and full expression and all this. So it's actually me being all of who I am. And if, my expertise enables me to communicate at a high level in a couple different topics, I'm going to do that. So, that's currently what I run. So this is my right here. First book, Who Am I After Sports? My second one, System of Self-Care, is all around how to design a system of self-care in your life that supports the level of success that you desire. So it is target for high performing leaders who want to achieve at a high level, and they're like, I don't want to just go breathe just so I can just feel better. I actually want to get the most out of my self-care. It's bent towards high achieving people. And then my next book that I'm working on right now is called Speak Naked.
Interesting.
I knew you were going to like that. I knew you were going to like that.
Yeah. That'll definitely
tell me about the naked.
Do we want to
do? Seriously, because public speaking is like psychologically, emotionally, and spiritually undressing in front of other people.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's something that I've never had a real problem with. As long as you go up prepared, but I'm more of the guy where I want to set up a topic and then take questions. So I guess
everybody wants to do that because it's easier.
Yeah, it's totally easier. That's exactly what talk hosts do.
Totally. I don't want to work out. I just want to take the fat loss pill too.
You could set up a topic for 20 minutes and then
you can.
I've done it before.
I get it does work better, but it's only because one has not been trained. Because again, you're talking to a guy that was suicidal and deeply insecure. So I was so insecure that I used to leave the room and fake like I had to go to the bathroom during icebreakers. So, I have footage of me speaking where I'm looking straight at the floor and I'm mumbling the entire speech. You can barely hear what I'm saying because I'm that afraid and nervous. My first time my pastor asked me to speak, I told him I needed 4 months to prepare. You should see his face. I was dead serious. I was like, I gotta study for. Part of it is I figured I had to memorize the darn thing because I lost my train of thought real bad. So I had concussions and I had ADHD. I still have it, and I'm also dyslexic. So it's like even mentally, cognitively, I wasn't even wired for this. Yeah. But what it forced me to do is sort of overcompensate and learn different challenges, and I had to learn how to overcome this insecurity. So now, all my clients who are like, I don't know, all your speakers are great and they're amazing. They're doing all these views on TED Talks and stuff. I'm kind of, I need a lot of more work. I'm like, you don't need more work than I need it. I promise you. And I play the video. And I go, the difference between this guy and this guy.
Oh, yeah.
Is what this coaching program is about. Yeah, and they're all in after that, right? Yeah.
You do. It's like a lot of different things. The more you commit to it, every now and then I belong to a group called BNI, and every now and then
BNI got a guy. Yeah,
that's right. 8-minute presentation from time to time.
Yes,
and that's one of the things that my business does is help people in our group, in our chapter, and then some, is to prepare for their featured presentation because so many of them just don't do it well. You know. They get into the weeds on things.
Oh my God.
And it's
so terrible.
Not that we're perfect at it, but I'm like, look, this is first and foremost about make it entertaining and informative, edutainment.
Start there.
And that's something in radio that I've at least learned, even when I used to write client copy for commercials, is leave the laundry list off in terms of all the stuff that you do, because that listener's not interested.
Totally.
But if you come at them in an entertaining way and identify a very common problem in their life and you know how to solve it, that's marketing, man.
It is.
It really is. It's that simple.
That's it.
Yeah. You ever hear of the Wizard of Ads in your marketing endeavors?
No.
It's a trilogy of books that was written primarily for radio ad copywriters.
Oh, my God.
A guy named Roy H. Williams, prolific speaker, amazing guy. Wrote a trilogy of books called the Wizard of Ads Trilogy. Very profound, cerebral types of approaches to writing ads.
Sounds like my type of book.
It's a good read.
I'm about to get it.
So people could find and follow you. I know it's DarrylStinson.com. 2 R's, 2 L's.
That's right. Look at you.
Stinson Speaks are all your handles.
That's correct, my friend.
Anything else you want to put out there for people to consider and follow you and all that stuff?
I would just say this, man. I mean this in the most humble way. I'm called to train the next generation of communicators. The old way of communicating from stage is dying. It's fading to black.
What's the next iteration going to look like, you think?
Fully expressed, spiritually surrendered communicators.
Getting pattern interrupt and getting in people's faces and the
doing
audience.
Whatever is needed in order to transform a human being while they're giving you the most valuable thing that they have, which is a portion of their lifespan.
Because everybody in that room in that Tony Robbins documentary was putting themselves in the shoes of that person, the victim, so to speak. They were like, oh my gosh, what if he was doing this to me? Making me call my girlfriend that I know is not healthy for me and breaking up with her.
I know. I get it.
That's freaking mad.
I get it. But that's how you quantum leap that's how you turn something that would have took you a decade into a day by making a decision for sure.
How do you go about when you see somebody, like not even just in an audience, but a friend, maybe an acquaintance, you see them in a very unhealthy relationship. How do you penetrate somebody, not like, sounds so bad. How do you penetrate somebody like that? How do you penetrate into their mind space to make them like, dude, do you not see what's happening here?
Yeah, I don't penetrate. I hold space.
Yeah.
People already know. They already know.
How do you get them to move to change?
You don't get them. You hold space. So if I were doing that in real time, I would just hold space. I would sit there and I just stare and let them till they really felt comfortable. How you feeling about your relationship? that might be enough.
Yeah.
That might be actually,
We'll have to talk about this offline.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get vulnerable about this on the podcast.
Don't do that.
Yeah.
It's going to get messy real quick.
Yeah, especially if they hear it. So there you go. All the details will be in the description, as always, of DarryllStinson.com.
Yep.
2 R's, 2 L's in Darryll. And check them out all there. Make sure you follow them. And, of course, everything's at mmtbp.com. You could also go to mostly Middle Tennessee Business Podcast.com. It's a long name, but that's why we truncated it down to 5 letters, mmtbp.com. All the things are there, links and things of that nature. Darryll, always a pleasure. Thanks for coming all the way out here.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate you.